Greetings, beautiful souls, and welcome to the House of Healing. I am your host, Lady Spellbreaker, and I am so glad you are all here. I am delighted to have our guest, Rebekah from Pillars of the Moon, to talk with us today about her 13 sign womb reports that align with a woman's menstrual cycle. So, everyone, please give Rebekah a welcome. Hello, lovely.
Happy Friday the 13th.
Happy Friday the 13th to you too. This is our second one this year. We get 3.
Wow, it feels really special to be here. Thank you.
It does for me as well. Let me get my chat over here. Hello. Let me say hi to people real quick. Hello, Lori and Desiree. Everybody that's joining in here, thank you all so much. We are going to get right into this, though, because we are on a time schedule. So, Rebekah, where are you from?
Well, I'm English and I grew up in England, and I'm currently living in Glastonbury in Somerset in the United Kingdom. Yeah.
That is beautiful. That's my goal one day, is to visit England, to where my nan came from. All right, so let's get into a little bit of your background here with astrology. How did you first get into astrology?
Well, I'd have to take it right back to when I was a child, right? Like sometimes they say that, when the things that you do when you're a child is kind of the things that you'll end up doing when you grow up. And I have this memory, I must have been about 9 or 10, and I was walking to school and I was saying the constellations and the astrology wheel, like I would go Aries, Taurus, and all the way to school, like, because a part of me knew I had to remember it. And then obviously when I got kind of into my 20s, I started to really get interested in astrology. And I have learned the majority of what I know through self-studying, through buying different books, from following different astrologers. And I think I'm quite an independent person, and I just find that I learn really well when I study it myself in my way. And if I have questions, I've always seemed to find the right mentor and at the right time. And, people throughout my path have kind of guided me, and I've always had people around me who were able to answer the questions that I had, to kind of take me to the next place, when you kind of have different aspects that you're wanting to learn about. When I was in my 20s and early 30s, that's kind of, the people were just around that I would ask. I seemed to attract astrologers who would guide me and support me. So I haven't done an official training, but I think my whole life has been a training of remembering. So I do feel like I have a lot of dreams about the stars and the planets as well. Like, it's a regular occurrence that I'm up out there doing things. And so I think I just have a really a deep reverence for all the stars and all the different energies. I'm Piscean, so I think I'm naturally very dreamy, and I get lots of dream visions. So yeah, it's something that I've kind of been very curious about and been studying over many years. So, and it's gradually increasing. And, actually, when my son was born, Arthur, that was 6 years ago, he brought Pillars of the Moon through with him in this birth portal, and it all kind of boomed out of me around that time. So it's kind of, I was just channeling a lot, and I was drawing a lot of kind of like what he was showing me through his soul, what he was bringing in. So,
Oh, beautiful.
yeah.
That is awesome. I'm very glad you followed your intuition to lead you through the stars, because you are very, very knowledgeable about the stars. There are just a couple of astrologers that I've really found that are very knowledgeable about the placements of the stars. Like, for instance, Uranus in the retrograde right now is at Algol. And so if we look at Algol and connect it to Medusa and other things going on, we can actually see what's going on in the world today. So it's like magic that you were divinely guided by your guides to follow all of this and your intuition. So we are happy about that.
Thank goodness.
I say thank goddess all of the
Thank God,
time.
yeah, thank goddess.
Here's the next question. When did you open the door to 13 sign astrology? If you had tropical in your system all this time, how did that door open up?
So that was with Arthur as well when he was born. It started kind of coming into my awareness before that because I was traveling. I was a free-spirited traveler and I was in New Zealand. And so I'd started getting into like really wanting to share more astrology with the world and kind of bringing through like different things on the full moon and the new moon from a tropical perspective. And then I got the app Star Walk on my phone, or Star Walk 2, you know, the astronomy app. And so I was out with a big group of my friends and it was a night of the full moon or something. And I got out my phone to be like, oh, the moon is in Cancer or whatever it was. And then when I got it out on my phone, it said Gemini. And I was like, oh, hold on, have I got this right? And I had this whole flap because I realized that, oh, what I'm saying isn't true. And then I could see the stars of Gemini and I was like, oh, you know, there's just this moment of like, that feels off. And so that started in New Zealand when I was there. And then I came back to England and I'd already had this kind of stirring of like, oh, astrology is all a bit, you know, you felt a bit lost, you know, of what to do. And then I found Kim from Ra Star and Ra Star 13. And she showed me how to do the 13 star sign chart wheel that she uses, and we done like a training and she showed me how to do it. She taught me all about the 13 house system. She's been amazing. She's such a soul sister, and she just landed in my life at the right moment where I was in this period of, oh, but tropical doesn't fit anymore, and what yeah. And so she was that person at that transition point that was kind of like the doula or the midwife for me to birth Pillars of the Moon. She kind of helped birth Pillars of the Moon, and she was always very supportive of the work that I was bringing through and believed in me, you know, like a midwife should. And so I think I am where I am now because of Kim and her input and the way that she kind of nourished my gifts and lifted me up, you know. It was and I've always turned to Kim if I've got questions about astrology, and she's got such a lot of wisdom, you know, and she continues to support me to this day. I'm very
She's amazing. I kind of found her the same way, and she's been my like the guide for me before I met One Sky Astrology and Uma Stellar. Before I met you even on Instagram. I think you were following me, and I realized we were doing the same charts using the exact same astro app. And I've only found me, you, Kim, and a person in New Zealand using the 13 and 13. Everybody else is using Capricorn, Prometheus, and 13 and 12. And I kind of like balance. I think Ophiuchus deserves a house. So I resonate deeply with the fact that we'll, Kim starts with the equinox, which we'll talk about later, as the new solar year, and her chart begins with Pisces, not Aries. And so it really glitches my mind up when people are like, Aries in the first house. And I'm like, no, it's not. And I'm like, not in my world, it's not, you know. So it's really like, and she finally gave me a house system that she's working with. She's working on an article because you cannot find any information on 13 houses at all. Anywhere online. Nowhere. And I've only found me, you, Kim, and it's Star Kittens Media is in New Zealand. And so I was delighted to find you.
But, you know, I found like through using the 13 house system for me, like, so my South Node was in the 10th house of Ophiuchus. And so Kim was like, whoa, you've got a lot coming in from your past lives from a fucus, and your magical gifts are actually from your past lives. And I was like, well, that makes sense. I'm wearing snake trousers right now. I had so much serpent stuff in my life. Like, I've got this real thing about serpents and Isis and like, the serpent priestesses. I've always been kind of really drawn to that work. So when she said, your south node is in the house of a fucus, it just landed something in me that was like, whoa, yes. And that's the resonance, which for me is where I relate my truth to, that kind of embodied like yes was so of course the sun rising in Pisces on the equinox, that is the beginning of a new, the new coming up into spring, the light that comes up. So we are rising in Pisces, so that is the beginning, but then we can also say, because in New Zealand, they are in autumn at that point, so in New Zealand, their rising of spring is in Virgo. So what? So it really is depending on where you are on the planet, so there's a lot of like, I kind of see all of those things, and I see, I kind of think, well, if that is the case, if we're saying, well, New Zealand has spring while the sun is rising in Virgo, and we have spring when the sun is rising in Pisces, would the age be the polarity or the axis? That's kind of an angle that everyone's like, whoa, really? What? That's the way that my mind works. It's just like sees all these random things, but I kind of see the visual of it, and how the planet is like holding both of those gates in the rising of the spring, depending on where you are. Which is quite a beautiful thing to feel into, if we wouldn't to say that it was just the age of Pisces, but if we are marking the spring equinox as the beginning, but if in the southern hemisphere their beginning is Virgo, actually New Zealand is the first place on the world to see the sun. That's where the sun rises first in the world, so that's kind of something that I kind of I can go off on these tangents. So.
No, go for it. I love it. I love the wisdom you're sharing. And that's
if I go out too far, you'll have to reel me back in.
All right. I will, but I think this is going wonderfully. So I've got your channel on the Nightbot as well, and it should be pinned to the top. Everyone, if you would like to subscribe to Rebekah's channel, all of her links are in the description box, by the way. And so there is Nightbot. Speaking of Nightbot, there he is. He just dropped your link, or robot, to your channel. So we are going to get right into the womb report so we don't run out of time. So let me pull this up over here, and it's going to drop us over to the side, and I will let you have the floor.
Oh, thank you. So what we can see here that you've just brought up for us is it's actually a cycle report that I was doing for a client of mine in Australia this week, and you can see from what I've done, like the inner wheel was the sky, the live sky when she bled, because I get my clients to track the exact time that the bleed comes if they can catch it, and then on the outer wheel, the inner wheel is her chart and the outer wheel is the sky. So her natal chart is on the inside and the bi wheel is the live sky, on the outside. So you can see that her bleed came at the exact time that the moon crossed her natal Mars, in trine to Pluto, who's on her Mercury, and in opposition to her Saturn, and she's also in her Saturn return. So we had a lot to talk about, and it's like you can see this is the absolute genius of the womb, that unless you look at it this way, you wouldn't know that. that you bled on that exact moment. Like my bleed came this last cycle, the exact moment that the moon crossed over my black moon Lilith. Like the exact moment. And it's like, what? How? Like, how do you know that? Like, it's magical. And because I've been tracking my cycle this way for the last 3 years now, it's just blown me away, because I have always had really long cycles with my menstrual cycle and always felt like, why is it like this? And now, instead of feeling like my cycle should be a certain way, it's like my womb has got the reins back, and I'm just watching and listening to what my womb is showing me. And the moment that the blood comes, it's like a new moon for me. Like my womb is the calendar. It's dictating my flow, my rhythm, just like the way that the moon in the sky, we have our new moon, we wax, we come to fullness, and then we descend. This cycle of like life, death, and rebirth at the womb, is part of that. It's the same. So when I'm doing a chart reading, like my client in Australia, this is her new moon. This is her new cycle. So you can see, like, as she's bleeding, you can see the planets that her womb is choosing to bleed over. You've got her Mars, you've got her Chiron, probably all the way up to her Pluto, which is where Black Moon Lilith is hanging around. So it's amazing. And then you can see a shifting energy, which she comes up into the spring. And she said, around day 10, I've got a lot of work on. I've got this amazing retreat that I'm doing. And I was like, well, that's good, because you've got lots of Capricorn in your chart, and your energy is going to be in the spring. You've got that Pluto trine Mars thing, and it's a lot, but it's going to bring a lot of power into your work that you're doing, and your voice is going to be really strong. It's a trine. It's going to feel active. You're going to have some strong desires to get things going. And I can see that when she's about to ovulate, I can see, because when you look at, so the moon sextile the moon is a really fertile time. And Kim actually sent me a book that she has. I can't remember the name of it, but I can post it to you afterwards. But it says about the most fertility and the stars, and how to track your menstrual cycle and ovulation. And it spoke about the moon sextile the moon is also the time we will ovulate. Obviously, for obvious reasons. And you can see in her chart, she's got her moon is sextile to, she's got this beautiful energy coming over from her moon to like her sun and Vesta. You can see her Vesta is also returning. When the moon comes just to the end of Capricorn, she's going to get her egg release. And I can say that is very, very likely, because it happens to me every month. And every client that I've had, I'll say, you're likely to ovulate at this stage. Like, okay, I'll write that down, and it's always correct. Planets, moon, fertility, waters, womb. And she's also got her Venus there as well. So I was like, wow, you got some fertility this month, like if you want a baby, it's a good time to try, like your womb is aligned to that. And then you can see what kind of planets are going to be involved in her ovulation. She's got her Saturn return. So I was like, wow, Saturn's going to be really, you're going to have a lot of work stuff. What's a big plan? What's a long-term goal? That's on that Saturn and Neptune conjunction as well. So it's how much information does that give to us as a person who is bleeding and cycling, to actually have all of that planetary guides to work with, to say at the peak of your cycle, your womb is aligned to be at your most creative peak on your Saturn return. And Venus just so happens to be over there as well, so you want to be really building those dreams, thinking about love, what value, and that's kind of where she's going to be moving towards. And then I'll talk about the descent of her cycle, as the moon crosses over Uranus, like you say, at our goal, she's going to have her descent, where she starts to feel, if she hasn't made a baby, obviously, she'll come into her autumn. And then she's dropping down into Taurus. That's going to feel good. It's going to be like, okay, I need to slow down. I need to drop into my body. It's been a lot of work, a lot of excitement this cycle, and all of these constellations have been involved in her ovulation, and now Taurus comes to take her back down, to really ground. And then she can come back home again. She's going to come back down to Cancer, and then she might, who knows where she'll bleed next time. But it's like it's so amazing to work with the cycle in this way. And I've found I've got clients who are trying to conceive, and they've got their North Node in Cancer, and Gemini's what's his name? Jupiter's moving into Cancer this year. So I was saying, well, Jupiter's going to be hitting on your North Node in this June. July. So that's a very good time to focus. Just going to bring a blessing, and if your North Node's in Cancer, it's going to be quite a good time. But if you don't know that, you just be trying going, it's not happening. But if you can actually use your intention and your the wisdom that comes with the womb and the stars, and use it together, it's phenomenal what we can actually do. Yeah. So I'm just going to take a breath. If you've got anything you'd like to share from all of that round.
No, I think it's truly amazing the way that the stars are working in the transit, and it's truly magical the way it works with a woman's cycle. We can even touch on the magic of the power of the number 3 or 13, because it does track with how many moon cycles we have, and this is part of why 13 sign astrology is so important, and why I do 1-3-1-3 and not 1-3 and 12 houses. I keep the balance. My Uranus is in Libra in the 10th house, so if I like balance, you can understand why.
Yeah.
And you had shared from is her name Stella Porter on Instagram?
Yeah.
About the power of the 13. Do you want to go in that real quick?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we know, well, many of us know that, before the Gregorian calendar and the Romans came in and they put in their calendar system, which is 12 months, that many of us would have been cycling with the phases of the moon. And I have this really deep memory of all bleeding together as community when we lived more kind of in villages and nearby one another. I often find when I'm working with a woman with her chart, my womb will start shifting towards her womb cycle, and we'll get moved around, and there's this kind of magic of the 13. And, with Venus is 13, is it 13 Venus Earth years for her to do a whole cycle? Is that right? I'm trying to think that's right now. Yeah. So Venus has got the connection to the 13 as well, and the journey that she represents with the journey of descent and of the rebirth and Inanna going down and then having that time in the underworld and then resurrecting again is exactly the same as the journey of the menstrual cycle, which is exactly the same as the journey of the seasons, and it's all connected. So there was a point in time, I believe, where we was all much more connected to that wisdom, that when we lived closer together and when we wasn't all so separate, that we would sync up. We would all then, as a group, probably conceive around the same time because we would all be fertile at the same time. So then you'd have the waves of consciousness being born into a tribe, into a community. That's, I think, where we get the new wave coming in. It's that they are coming through the wave. And I know because I'm also, a birth keeper in our community, and we've had 4 babies born in the last week. We've got a wave coming in. It's like that lunar eclipse was really big, and all these babies just was like, okay, it's time, so there's a deep wisdom that moves through the womb, through the cycle, which is connected to the 13, which, I haven't forgotten, and I feel really strongly connected to that. And also, I also got really fascinated about the turtle. The turtle has 13 panels on its back. Turtle Island, they have the indigenous calendar of the 13 moons on a turtle's back. And they track the cycle through the turtle's back, and they've got numbers that go around the different panels on the turtle's back. And I find that's amazing. And I think, wow. And then I started to look into the turtle, and I was like, the turtle predates, well, it was around the dinosaur time. So there was giant turtles that lived on the earth when the dinosaurs were here. So the wisdom of the turtle predates a lot of definitely before the Roman Empire, that's for sure. So I feel like this wisdom, it takes it right back, doesn't it, to right back into the beginning of time that we know it, like the goddess, the adoration of the source, the birther of the womb, of the creatrix. That there, there's statues all over the world, ancient temples and spirals of the spiral. I'm just loving that it's gone dark here now, because I'm just like, I'm in like this witchy kind of a realm of darkness. But,
I noticed that because it was light when you first came in, but I do love it. I spend a lot of my videos, because I can't hardly stand, I don't have my light on now, I cannot hardly stand all these fake lights. I live in black lights in the background typically.
yeah.
So, oh wow, the turtle seems to be the original Cancer, the crab. That's very interesting, because it even goes back to Egypt and the scarab as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm reading the Zodiac and the Salts of Salvation, and it breaks down a lot of things too, but he does not use 13 sign astrology. And it was funny because we even had to switch, because we switched time this past weekend. And so we moved up an hour. So I had to edit mine in order to meet you at 1800 hours in UTC time. And it turned me to 1300 hours here.
Wow, I saw that.
I said, well, isn't that divine?
Yeah.
And I just looked up after you said who decided to change the time, and I said it was probably Rome, and it was actually William Willett who independently conceived it during he conceived DST in 1907. He's a prominent English builder. So I don't know if he followed King James or what.
Yeah.
But it's very confusing on the time changes.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to talk just briefly about the galactic center.
Yes, please do.
Galaxy, because I have, quite a few. I've got my Neptune, Uranus, Ceres, and Saturn all kind of around there. So I feel quite a lot of connection to the galactic center as like a big galactic portal or yoni, and birth point. And then when I was researching into that, that the sun actually circles around the galactic center. So in a way, it's like all of the planets that circle around the sun, the sun is our center of our solar system, but our solar system and our sun is circling around the galactic center. And that is like, well, our sun, our light, is circling around something else. That is, for me, source. When I connect into the galactic center, I really feel this like pulse, which it feels like a pulse of life and death and rebirth and power and information, but not information that we're used to, not logical information, but insights and information from beyond the veil kind of energy. So I feel like when we're working with the galactic center as a power point, as a source, as a creator energy, and we're using that to inform, my cycle reports, and I'm always sending prayers to this energy. I feel like it's a great kind of way that we can connect to that power in us. And I've found, like, since tracking my own cycle in this way, and since connecting into the galactic center and source, my life has changed incredibly. Like, I've got my Sun conjunct Jupiter and my North Node as well, and so I've realised that I have a great capacity to generate abundance in my life. But before I realised about this galactic center and tracking my cycle, I hadn't kind of clicked it all together. But now I can really feel like, the energy of Jupiter is really bringing a lot of blessings for me to really expand out. And if I'm connecting into the galactic center, what's wanting to come through is very powerful. And I have to keep trusting it because sometimes it feels super radical. And my Mercury's in Aquarius, so I'm just like, I don't know if you understand this language. It's like, I don't know where it's come from. I'm going to share it and see what happens. And the womb astrology stuff kind of feels like that. It's kind of like this kind of concept of we're reclaiming our womb power through our connection to our womb and our cycles, and also our connection to the stars, and just see how it all works together, because at one point I imagine we would have all, as a collective, as a community, come together to bleed,
Uh-oh. She froze. Rebekah, come back. Is she frozen on anyone else's end? Oh no. Oh, here she is.
Oh, you went off.
Welcome back.
Hello. What happened there?
I don't know. You were talking about something someone didn't like, I guess.
Yeah, but it's a powerful thing, isn't it? And I just want to share it as much as possible, because I feel like it's something that I would love eventually to teach more of, because I really want to empower my children to work with the cycle and to be, what's the word, in the flow of it. Because when you've got transits coming and it's going to be big, like you've got big transits going on, and I've got big transits, like, oh god, but when you know about it and when you're working with it, and you can say, okay, so this is a Pluto lesson, what do I need to do? Probably surrender, probably let stuff die, probably go to the depths of it. I need to metamorphosize, otherwise Pluto will do it for me anyway. So when you're working with it, I think it gives you a lot of tools to be in power with it, and rather than being governed by it, because it's going to happen to you anyway, right? If you've got Uranus opposing Uranus, it's what's going to happen. But if you have an awareness of it, you've got a certain, I don't want to say control, because Uranus, you can't really control what Uranus gets up to, but you have an awareness which can bring a sense of clarity about why things are happening the way that they are.
Yeah, I think that is a powerful word, surrender, right there, because once we know and we realize, we can say, aha, and the light bulb goes off, and we can say, okay, what is the lesson behind this, and what do I need to let go of? I actually heard a woman in the constellational conversations the other day refer to Scorpio not as death, but composting. And think of compost, like when the leaves, the dead leaves, and all of the old coffee grounds and the eggs are composting. It's making a rich, beautiful new soil. It's going to bring wonderful things for the life. And so I'm very glad you talked about the Galactic Center, because that's even where Scorpio and Ophiuchus overlap. Scorphucus is what Dr. Danny calls it. And so that's where my midheaven is. And my Neptune and Ophiuchus all like 11th house, and my Uranus is I'm having a Uranus half return right now with in opposition to Algol, which is Medusa, which is triggering all of these things going on with the Epstein files and Donald and Jeffrey. And I'm just like, oh my stars, I understand what's going on now. You know what I mean? And I'm making a choice to walk
Yeah.
away from some of these platforms and that are not owned by billionaires. Because my daughter died in 2020 during this exposure of all these things, and I don't want to support them as much as I want to support all of my beloved friends and things. I am not supporting the billionaires, so I'm going to do that announcement later. But also, let's see what we've got about 20 minutes left, and I just learned that Scorpio was the mother back in Sumerian astrology.
Oh,
Scorpio was the mother healer in Sumerian
wow.
astrology. Because I'm going to be on Sumerian Astrology channel on Monday. If you don't know Abby and Nikki, I'll be over there on Monday. And Nikki just confirmed that I'm still going to come on Monday, even though I'm boycotting. So I'm going to finish my interviews and do what I need to do here and now, but I'm slowly going to get off of these platforms. So we've got we've got a couple big transits going on, and then I also wanted to know if you wanted to talk about the equinox, which you kind of did already a little bit.
Yeah.
But we were going to touch maybe on this Saturn, and I can even pull this up. Let's see. Right now we've got Friday the 13th chart. If you'd like to look at this for today, we kind of have this. They're not exact at the minutes right this second, but we've got Chiron and Eris. And then we've also still got a very close aspect with Saturn and Neptune, all in Pisces.
Yeah, well, Venus is there too at the moment, isn't she? So, yeah, it's interesting because I quite often find when Venus is with Saturn, like there can be like a lot of seriousness around our relationships. You know, things can feel quite heavy in our relationships. Sometimes Saturn brings kind of like this flavor of, oh, we should really get our things in order, you know, or whatever it is around the things that we value and the things that we love. And you know, I definitely have felt that over the last kind of few days as Venus is, you know, close to Saturn. It's kind of, there's a lot of work around love. Love can take a lot of work, and especially, you know, when you've got this energy of Chiron and Eris coming together. And I think I looked it up the exact day when they was exact. It's just on the new moon, which was really interesting. But then as Chiron goes over, Chiron's going to go into Aries first, you know, then that's going to be a really big breakthrough, I think, in terms of our wounds. You know, it's like it's crossing a threshold. And when you look at the live sky, like on Stellarium Web, you can see that Chiron and Eris are really close to Star Aureshka, which is the knot or the cord of Pisces, and it's the place where the two fish meet. It's the cord or the golden knot that connects us to our soul. So that's where these two are hanging out. So that's really interesting, isn't it? Like, what does that mean? And it's kind of, if I was tuning into what, because once you get past that knot, that's the birth portal. It's where you come out of the Pisces waters, and I see the stars of Aries and the top of Cetus as like this cervix energy. It's kind of like a threshold point where the Pisces pulls through and is born again into the void space, because, you know, the ecliptic doesn't touch either Aries or Cetus. It's kind of in the middle. So when a baby is born, it comes out of Pisces, out of its sac, and that's kind of like when it comes out and through the transition time. I feel when a baby is born, it takes a while to land. You know, that you can feel when a baby's born, it's in between worlds, and it takes a while till it comes to the Taurus, and that's the Taurus field, the Horus field. The Taurus, it comes down into the physical of the earth. So there's a transitional time that I feel we're going to go through as a collective as Chiron moves through there, and it's kind of like our wounds right now with Eris. It's like we have to really look at the things we haven't wanted to look at. The stuff that we've shoved in the cupboard or under the bed, or the really stinky, yucky, all the parts that weren't invited to the party. You know, Eris is kind of like the one that, you know, the story of the one that was exiled and she wasn't invited, and, you know, she causes all this disruption and conflict. But I really love Eris because she doesn't care if she offends somebody, because she's there for truth. And the thing that I loved about her with the golden apple that she threw into the goddesses and the gods, and everyone was there, and they was all fighting over who was the fairest of them all. And the thing is, if they was all enlightened and healed beings or whatever, they wouldn't be fighting over who was the fairest. You know, they'd just be like, well, that's a silly thing. Like, what are you talking about? But she can basically, she has the power to bring in the part of us that we aren't looking at and call out the elephant. You know, isn't that just what the Epstein files is, calling out all the big fat elephants? And it's ugly, but it's necessary.
Absolutely.
You know, to move through.
Yep.
So that's kind of, it feels, that's what it feels.
Yeah, and to be honest, my Mercury is conjunct Eris in Pisces, and it's in a trine to my Neptune in Ophiuchus. And I'm actually the one who's publicly saying we need to get all the stuff out of the closet. We need to dig up. I lifted the rug. I said everything that we've swept under the rug, it's coming up, you guys. And I've been doing this for years. I got up on stage and did this. I told my whole story shamelessly, because that's how we heal. This is necessary for transformation. I'm also a Scorpio midheaven. So this is really powerful stuff coming through, and it all resonates so deeply. We need to heal our addictions. We need to heal our trauma, because we're doing it for the children. Like the indigenous tribes here in America teach that what we do, we should think of 7 generations ahead. So even though my daughter is now in the spirit realm, one of my guides, I have a little nephew. Should I just say, oh, I don't have kids anymore? I don't care about the children of the future. I don't care about this planet. I could say that. Or I could say, I'm going to lead by example and be the best person that I can be, breaking my alcoholism, breaking my addictions, so I can teach the children, so I can teach my nephew, so I can teach everyone how to break the chains, break the cycle, be the spell breaker, and do everything for the children.
And isn't it interesting, though, that the Chiron energy now with Eris is bringing up a lot of, you know, wounds of these things that have been hidden. And then as Chiron crosses the threshold and moves into Aries, I do feel like it is a time of healing for the children, for the young. I feel like Aries to me is a very young energy. It's a very kind of toddlery kind of, you know, the 4-year-old that stamps their foot and says mine kind of energy. And I love that. You know, my daughter's 4. She's in that. She's got her Sun conjunct Mars, so she's like, yeah. But, you know, when Chiron comes into Aries, I feel like this is going to be a really big shift for us collectively. And I feel what you've just said is a big piece to really heal for the children, so that we don't keep passing this stuff on, and then looking at 7 generations ahead. It really is like, when we think of Chiron and Aries, it is like a really healing kind of frequency, the healing of the children, the healing of the damage and the things that have been done for the children, and to really bring the children. This is a lot of the work that I do, is bringing the children and the mothers into the center, and the elders, of course, and keeping that kind of container of support, which I feel like has been really kind of lost, isn't it? And that's why, so much of my work with the Mama Village that I do is a organization here in Glastonbury, where we bring the mothers back into the center and the children. And we realize that with birth, that there's so much like that. When you give birth, you're so permeable, you're like wide open. So if we can do that bit for the children with love and gentleness and safety, for as much as we can, that really affects that child's life throughout their whole life, because a lot of the trauma that we have in birth, we're trying to heal throughout our whole life, right? So I feel like this is going to be a big thing with Chiron going into Aries, and it's going to be a massive shift for us all. So I feel like right at this point of this, where it is in Pisces now, right at Aureshka, it's the cord which connects us to our soul. So we've been so cut off from that, just like cutting of the cord, straight away after birth, severs us, gone. And I found with my daughter, she was, we did a lotus birth, so we didn't cut the cord. And the magic thing was, after 3 days, the cord dried out, and she naturally pulled it out of her own belly button just as my milk came in. That's the transition, and it naturally happened. There was no trauma, there was no, it was just gentle. And I feel like this is a really big kind of thing that we even like this place in the sky. I think this is why I'm talking about this. Pisces and Aries, it is like the birth. So I feel like we are having to address our own births, our own traumas, our own childhoods, the collective the collective births, all of this kind of severance from our connection to our spirit. It's such a powerful place in the sky. And I've always felt a really strong resonance to Aureshka, because Rebekah means the knot. That's one of the meanings for the name Rebekah, is to that knot binds. And I was like, oh, that's like Aureshka. It's like that energy that joins us to our soul. We cannot be separate from that, and so it's such a, like my wish for this time with Chiron and Aries is that we can look at all of the stuff that's been under the blankets, wherever it's been, and find a way to love it and heal it and integrate it and move through it and transmute it, do what we need to do, so that we can move forward into the phase. And it might be stinky and it might be hard, and it's like you say, you have to get over your addictions and all the things that if we can do that, if we can really love ourselves through that, it's really powerful time.
And I think that's the message, is returning to our self-love and not self-hatred, and not the things that are destroying us, like alcohol and all of these addictions. I talk about social media addiction. I talk about shopping addiction. I talk about, that's one thing that I struggle with, beating alcoholism and things, is buying things. I mean, look at how many card decks I have behind me. How many more do I really think I need before I'm actually satisfied? You know what I mean? I have like 7 decks already. And I think it became like after my daughter moved to the spirit world, I'd like to say that instead of just dying, I finally am able to say that I found her dead on the floor and that she died, but without losing it. But I like to say that she moved to the spirit world. That became like an instant gratification thing, shopping and buying things sometimes that I do not need to fill that void because she was all I had. She was my only child. And I got my tubes tied even though I still have my cycle. And I don't know that I would bring another child into this planet right now just because my other one was so badly traumatized. But that's besides the point. Just doing everything that I need to do now to say, okay, Heather, you might have a problem with this and you need to work on this. So that's very, very beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. If there is anything else that you want to talk about, we've got about 8 minutes left before the hour. We either have the equinox or any other.
Spring Equinox? Want to talk about, did you have a chart for
Let's see here. Yep, I do. We've got the equinox and I've also got the new moon. So you want to look at the equinox?
Yeah, let's look at the equinox. I will do a new moon report at some point soon.
I've got mine on,
which will be available
on Chicago time.
On
it's on Chicago, but you can go by that for now.
Yeah, of course. So this is the spring equinox. So you can see that the sun is right on this, in the Pisces place in the sky. And like what I find with the spring equinox energy, we call it Astara in the Wheel of the Year. And Astara is a time of fertility. You know, the Easter is to do with estrogen. It's the time of the eggs, of fertility, and that's where the bunnies come in, because the bunnies are very fertile, aren't they? You know, so there's a lot of fertility around this time, and you only have to look outside to see there's lambs being born, and there's buds everywhere, and there's flowers everywhere, and the bees are waking up. You know, so it's this time of like excitement for all of the new that can come and emerge in the sun, hopefully. I mean, it's been quite cold here still, but anyway, it's a time of potential, isn't it? And it's a time of really feeling into, you know, what do we want to create in this cycle ahead? You know, and I feel like for me, like the equinox energy, as we're bursting up and out of the soil, you know, I also recognize, I think because I work so much with birth, that the journey is begun all the way back at Samhain. It's you know, that time of the year when the old is composted, and you see the apple disintegrating down into the soil, and the seeds are planted. That's conception, which is all the way back in November. So at the end of October, early November. So you have this time of incubation. So if we can take ourselves back to the end of October, early November, what was we visioning then? What was we feeling then? What did we want to grow and dream into the winter with us? Now we might see in this time those little buds starting to shoot up from what we planted or conceived in the autumn. So this is why I work with the Wheel of the Year and the cycle, because it's like, yeah, you can put seeds in spring, they will grow, but there's something about the incubation period that we all have as humans when we was inside the womb, you know, that what is growing now, oh my gosh, I've just realized, because what I've been doing today, Heather, is I've been out in the woods and we've had the children, and it's been all about kind of homeschooling and what we can do for the kids in the future. And I was dreaming this in the autumn, and it's been sleeping in the winter. And I've just realized from what I'm saying that, oh my God, that was what I planted. Yeah, I remember now. So I think it's really useful for all of us to trace back into the autumn, and what was it back then that we was, because when we get to the end of like a season in the autumn and you've harvested all of the the pumpkins, but if you've harvested all of your wisdom, all of your riches, all of the things that you wanted to gather for the year, and there's a lot of wisdom in that place. There's a lot of knowledge. So then you take that wisdom into your planting, what the new wants to grow, and then by the spring it will come up. So yeah, what was you trying to grow in the autumn? Can you remember?
That is beautiful, and it's very important for that. Like, I'm a spring baby. I'm actually an Aries, so I was glad you said Aries in the child, because a lot of people relate that to Leo. Even though I have a stellium in Leo as well, and I really resonate with the inner child, and I do stomp my foot sometimes. So we do have a question, really.
Do you
I
actually
do. I
that?
actually do. I have a Taurus tattoo on the top of my foot, on my right foot. And when I found out I was an Aries sun, I did stomp my foot. I was very angry. I did not want to be an Aries. And thank heavens my progressed sun is in Taurus. Thank heavens my Venus is in Taurus, or I would have really been even more angry with a Taurus tattoo. So we have a question really quick. Heather, Eva, our dear sister over in England, would like to know if, hold on, once they go perimenopausal, I don't know how to switch us over, so these words are going over in the chat, and I apologize. How can we do our charts once people go menopausal?
Well, this is the actual brilliance as well of it, because I did a menopause chart for my mum. So when your cycles start to get all different, and if you or if you know the time that you bleed, if you're tracking it, like my mum, she knew the last bleed that she had, and she knew around the time that she bled. So what I did is I did a menopause chart for her. So like when you're born, you have your new moon, you have your birth chart, and then when you hit your menarche, when you start bleeding, you'd have another chart for that, and then you'd have another chart when your children are born, and that's their birth chart, but it's also your birth chart as a mother. And then you go into your menopause, that because obviously your cycles will be all changing, so you'll be able to read a lot from once your cycles start getting all different and choppy and further apart and things. They will likely land on very significant moments and planets and things. And then when you get to menopause, like if you can, when you're getting, that you're perimenopausal and it could be getting near the end, to bring a lot of awareness to that, to try to go, okay, this could be the last one. I'm going to keep track of when that was, because that informed your elderhood journey. It's like your elderhood chart. Who are you going to be as an elder? What's your chart for that? It's like your birth as an elder. And we know like so much of like the wisdom of the elders, hasn't been, because in many kind of in like the Wales, it's the grandmothers who really govern, the leaders of the tribe, of the pod. So the grandmothers, the ones that aren't bleeding anymore, they are the ones that hold the keys for the future generations. So the chart that I would do for that would be, it would be the last time that you bleed would be your menopause chart, and that would be your keys and your codes to your journey as an elder. And you could keep dropping back into that, and you could look at the progressions in that, shifting and changing. But I imagine that for my mum, when I did her menopause chart, she had a lot of stuff about the death of the mother. She was changing, and she wasn't mothering in the same way anymore, because me and my sister were grown up, doing our own things. So there was like, it showed really clearly that there was an ending, a completion around her as a mother. She was becoming something else. And then shortly after that, she became a grandmother, so it's like you can really see in the chart, how all of that was playing out. So I thought you would then, because like you stopped bleeding, you wouldn't have to keep doing a chart you would still do your transit reports and things, but I would then use that menopause chart as like you would use your birth chart to refer to. So that's what I've done for my mum. I have also done death charts as well, for people who have passed, and that's been really helpful for those who, my family that's passed, and also my friends who've had parents pass and things, that I've been able to really offer some support through what I can see through their bi-wheels and their synastry, and it's fascinating, So it's kind of like, that's how I would use the perimenopause um, wheel. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It just came to me that I'm in a group with Dr. Mindy Pills, who teaches about fasting for women, and working with your cycle and your hormones and what progesterone needs and what it doesn't need. And in the book, The Zodiac and the Salts of Salvation, we are supposed to fast when when the moon is transiting our sun sign. We are supposed to have no food, no sex,
Oh.
and like no social media when the moon transits our sun sign. So every time the moon enters Aries, I should be fasting. I should be not having social media. And this is what actually releases the sacred secretion. That's the land flowing with milk
Love
and honey.
this.
And so the women in the
Mm.
Resetter Collaborative group on Facebook that are menopausal, they actually work with the new moon cycle. So they start their cycle with the new moon, and so that just came to me after
Mhm.
Heather asked that. I was like, oh yeah, they also do that. So I think that we could also embrace that power by seeing when the moon enters our sun sign, especially as women with the
Mhm,
moon,
mhm.
that we could be fasting for this and maybe ignite even more magical powers. Yeah,
Yes, please.
we could
Sounds
really
nice.
step into our power. Yeah. And see, I think all of this information's been hidden. And so it would be very important for us to know this and not do it when the moon is entering our tropical sign, because it's going to throw off the whole system.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
And that's good about the death chart,
Oh.
because I actually had Julia and Maria, my guides through constellational conversations. They're both in radical astrology. I had them do a death chart for my daughter and see like maybe what the heck happened on 9/9/2020, and it did make sense. There
Mm,
was some aspects with Uranus and Pluto that were like bam, and
mhm.
it just was a shocking thing. So then I could pull up my chart and see what happened for me that day, on the day that she passed.
Mm. Yeah, it's so fascinating, isn't it? When my dad's mum, so my grandma on my dad's side, passed, it was when the moon. So basically, Pluto is on my
Mhm.
moon, and when the moon was in square to Pluto and my moon, that's when my nan passed. It was, and also that's where my Pluto is. So I've got Pluto square Pluto, and that moment, and it's so fascinating because then my dad also has his moon there in Libra. So it was, there's just so much wisdom that comes in that. It just makes so much sense when you look at the chart,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
And being that we just entered Pisces with the sun in Pisces right now, um, it's important. I see a lot of people that resonate with Jupiter being the masculine. Well, Jupiter once ruled Pisces, the mother. Big Daddy Juju was once a Big Mama Juju. And so
Yeah.
when we look at how everyone just thought they should change everything, we shouldn't do that. As a matter of fact, in Egyptian astrology, the pharaohs wrote the information and said no one should change it. The Bible in the book of Revelation,
Mhm.
which, if it's translated properly, is a map of the sky and the human body, actually says in the book of Revelation that no one should add to or remove from the word. So all of these words have been changed to cast spells on people, to confuse the people. And so Jupiter was the ruler of Pisces before Neptune came along. And
Mm.
Jupiter,
Wow,
if we
that's so
look
beautiful.
at Jupiter and this tree of life chart that I drew, Jupiter is over here on the feminine pillar, not on the masculine side. Masculine is Mars, opposite. Severity, Jup Jup,
Mm.
over here with the females in the girls' club, Jupiter. So everybody that's
Wow.
really passing along wrong information should go back to history, his story, and we'll make it her story. We will make her story history.
I love that. Yes. Well, I just my Jupiter is in Pisces with my sun, so it's like, okay, I resonate. Yeah.
That's perfect. Yeah, so wonderful. All right, it is
Yeah.
14:07, and I know you have your littles to get back to and get in
Yeah.
bed and
I
things.
put my hands.
So I thank you
Yeah.
all, everyone. I want to tell you thank you so much for coming. Please check out the description box if you'd like to subscribe to Rebekah's channel or any of her social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook. She's got a website if you're interested in a womb reading. Thank you so much for coming. It was just delightful, and I'm so glad we wore our witches' hats.
I know. And I'm in the dark now. I'm in the womb.
I love it. You're in the womb. You're going through the process.
Yeah, look, I've got this here. I'm gonna put my candle out as we say goodbye. Yes, thank you everyone. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much,
Thank you,
lovely. All right, you have a wonderful
Okay, bless you.
evening, darling, and I'll see you again soon. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
See you soon. Thank you. Thank you. Blessed be.
Blessed be,
Bye.
love.